Thanks, Gordon. Just as an aside about the numbers involved that are going to have to pay the ultimate price for this conspiracy, my sense is it would be Christian, well, not necessarily Christian, but somehow appropriate, because the witch hunt could continue and basically compromise millions of people who will never understand the extent to which they were tricked and trapped into joining this conspiracy, so they're sort of accessories at some length from the core conspirators. My rule of thumb would be, and it's just a suggestion, that the number of people who died on 9/11 should approximately equal the number of people who have to be executed as a result of their participation in the core conspiracy. So, off the top of my head, I think it would be appropriate to draw the line at 3,000 and put the rest in jail for life, or basically have them pay some kind of civil penalty to take care of what was one of the greatest betrayals at the national state level in history.
So here we have WTC-3, also known as the Marriott Hotel. Right after WTC-2 was destroyed, had this big gouge out of it. Vertical slice separating the southernmost edge of it. This was before Tower 1 was destroyed, and when Tower 1 was destroyed, the rest of this building went away. And we have these 3 wheat checks stabbed into the pavement. And here is what's left. This little tiny stub looked like it was the base of this tall, narrow portion. Just a little tiny bit of it left. This is looking north-northeast, across where Tower 1 used to stand an hour or two earlier. Where'd it go? From this down to here's a top view of the site. Building 4, you don't have the main body of it, you just have the north wing. Where did it go? Where are the towers? Bankers Trust is 40 stories, so we're missing 60 or 70 stories of building, more than half of it. Where'd it go? Where are the towers? Where are the towers? Where'd it go? Tower 1 is so overshadowed by this 8-story remnants of Building 6. What's wrong with this picture? You should have at least 100 more stories of the north wall of Tower 1. Where is the north wall? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where are the towers? How much energy did it take? Well, let's look at some pattern recognition here. We have Mount St. Helens. we have a nuclear test in Nevada, and we have one of the WTC buildings coming apart. To me, they look similar. Probably a similar amount of energy was involved. This is Hiroshima. A few days before Hiroshima, would anyone have imagined this? Just everything gone. What about the dust? There was a lot of dust. As it happens, here is Tower 1 and Tower 2. A large portion of it filled New York, filled the air, went everywhere. And it looks pretty uniform in size, except for the paper. Landed on the fruit. It's like a fresh snow. Here's a view from the north. What covered the wheat checks was aluminum cladding, which you can see those pieces falling off, but they don't trail dust. But the steel wheat checks trail dust. This is an interesting. This is a rather large wheat checks falling here with dust shooting out behind it. Is the building just turning to dust? Why? This is Tower 2 closer to the ground. Do you see any solid pieces of building coming down? I don't. I see aluminum cladding falling, but the rest is this type of dust that seems to trail behind the wheat checks. And then we have dust everywhere. This Cushman scooter kicks up dust that just stays in the air. If you drive down a dirt road, your pickup truck is going to kick up dust, but it pretty quickly settles out. This does not settle out like that. Here are 4 consecutive shots, and you can see these columns just turn to dust. Here's a video clip, and you can watch this turn to dust. So is this what happened to the entire building? Perhaps. Let's look at it a little bit more carefully. These core columns that were left standing for whatever reason are strong and rigid. That's a very tall, unsupported column. And the next frame, it starts to tip, and then it turns to dust before it even tips over. And as this dust cloud rolls out, it's very energetic. It looks like it's boiling. It's expanding in all directions. Tremendous amount of dust. So let's look at those holes. If you look at the scale, using these wheat checks here, because we know about what the spacing is on them, you can figure out these are about 20 4-foot diameter holes, or cylindrical cutouts. Many of them the same diameter. Look how far down the middle of that hole is. It's empty down to the ground level. 8 stories of building, gone. This is a look from inside that hole. You count down from the top, you can count down 8 stories, so you know you're at ground level. Then we have building 5 that was over in the northeast corner. Nice round cylindrical holes. This one turns out there's a roof flap hanging over it, but it's still the cylindrical cutout. And this one looks like a larger diameter. But what caused those round holes? We have this cylindrical cutout in the middle of Liberty Street. You notice this outer wall is sort of leaning back, and it's got a cutout missing that lines up with that hole. Kind of interesting. We look down into that hole. It's just what caused the hole. It's open. We also notice these different sub-levels have the reinforced concrete bars sticking out of it. And this piece of I-beam is pretty fascinating. It looks like it just withered away to nothing. It's eroded to nothing. Thinned out. And there's another hole up here. When you start looking at this, you start noticing lots of little holes, and they coalesce into bigger holes. So if we look at all of these grouped together, lift off a few of the wheat checks that are laying over the top of them, we can look down into that hole and climb down into it. We're climbing down into the basement of the second tower, and to me it looks that these folks are walking through a puddle of water. We may have heard of rumors of molten metal, but I see no indication of it here. And this picture was taken a week after 9/11. Another interesting phenomenon is toasted cars. Large number of toasted cars. I don't mean just a few burnout cars. I mean this weird things happening that don't make sense. After Tower 1 was destroyed, that's the second tower that was destroyed, suddenly these cars were on fire. There's mountains of paper in between, large volumes of paper that didn't burn. Why are these cars over here on fire where nothing between the tower and the car is? And after the fire stopped, we noticed the cars are all rusted. This lot. Then there's cars over on FDR Drive that had another peculiar pattern to them. This door looks like it just wilted, and the frames for the windows flopped over. I don't know what happened to his front tire, but it looks like he still has the steel belting of the tire in it, so he had radial tires. Fires don't cause steel to melt. And we have various other interesting patterns. This vehicle was parked a building away on the other side of the post office. What happened to it? If it had debris fall through it, why isn't the roof destroyed? This side's eaten out, wheels eaten, fire, spontaneous combustion. Here's that toasted lot. Paint is fine here, not here. And don't know what that is. Is it a car, truck? I call it the what's it car. This vehicle is sitting on top of this one. Why is it so rusted? This is the day after 9/11.
Look at these two cars placed on top of one another. I think when you when you think about the impact that these planes must have had, it's hard to visualize it because everything melted. But here, at least you have some remnants. You have literally an engine that is melded together with other parts of the car. Moving over, you've got another car they moved here. It looks like it's been through a war. You can see the papers, all the burned out papers from the building. You see the soot and the dirt, and it just shows you how devastating this blast was. Look across the street there. You've got a Con Ed truck that, you know, some of the Con Ed people now looking at, examining, trying to figure out which truck that actually was. But that truck, too, in terrible shape. So while many of the items, the steel, was literally melted.
We see more of these strange phenomena. Cars burning, not paper. Paper in the tree lost its leaves. Paper on the ground, only vehicles burning. That's pretty aggressive burning. Another one lost its engine. Where'd it go? Same here. Engine's gone. So is the cab. And the ladder's just kind of wilted down over it. Van with missing door handles. That seemed to be a common theme. A lot of door handles gone. Different kind of material. This is West Broadway. So what happened on that street? Here's a top view of that same street. This aggressive cloud looks like it did something unique. Because all the vehicles along this street were toasted. Baker's Trust across the street had some interesting events occur. This building, according to FEMA, had no fires in it. What happened to this beam? That's not from a mechanical overload. This was a horizontal beam, supporting the floors. Why would it shrivel up that way, like you would curl a ribbon for a package?
Their right mind in the United States of America would have a British company providing lack of security at our airports in a 25 or is it a 45-year contract beginning in, off the top of my head, 1989. It's the answer has to be, at the end of the day, it has to be an organization that wants to breach, B-R-E-E-C-H, the sovereignty of all of these nations. I mean, there's nothing left of England. They once had quite an industrial capacity. Take a look at what they pumped out in World War II, and they pumped out cars for a long time after that. But the industrial capacity of England has been systematically disassembled. Same thing in the United States of America. I get a kick out of the fact that the squatter came to Milwaukee about 3 weeks ago saying that we must rebuild the industrial capacity of the United States of America, and he was at a master lock factory in Milwaukee. I think maybe we should change the locks on the door of the White House and only allow people that are voted for by the informed people in the United States of America to have access to the White House, at least as a place to live. We as American citizens and we as global citizens owe it to ourselves and our less capable brothers and sisters to try to get this giant organization that has taken control of the United States of America, that has taken control of England. Obviously, it has control of Canada. If I had to write a prescription that I thought might work, I would say that if somehow the military forces in the United States and England could become aware of what they collectively are doing and have been doing for some 10 years in Afghanistan, that might be a way to right the ships of state. But, we're going against a very powerful, very evil enemy.